I was scrolling through ModDB trying to find some cool mods to play as I usually do, and I managed to stumble upon a pretty interesting looking mod for the original Half-Life that was released late last year. It's called Half-Life: The World Machine. And when I went and looked at the screenshots for this new single-player campaign mod, I was immediately pretty interested. I mean, look at this mapping. Look at this lighting. It all looks so interesting and not something we normally see from Half-Life mods. So of course, I decided to download and play it. And here I am now making a video about it. What is Half-Life: The World Machine, and is it worth playing? Let's find out.
LambdaGeneration.
Half-Life: The World Machine was developed by Dr. T, a Half-Life modder from Germany. It originally started development around mid to late 2022 and eventually released on October 22nd last year. Not sure how this flew under the radar, but it did. The mod puts you in the shoes of Flynn Weishaupt, who is a computer engineer who worked at Black Mesa right before the Resonance Cascade happened. When he worked at Black Mesa, he created a powerful supercomputer named the Gibson. But now that the Resonance Cascade is happening, he has to go down to the main core of the Gibson in order to back up its data and to destroy it. Why would you destroy a supercomputer, you might ask? Well, it's too powerful to fall into the hands of the enemies, which in this case are of course the Zen aliens and the military. The mod's creator, Dr. T, wrote a post-mortem on the World Machine over on his personal ModDB page. This blog post details pretty well what he went through while making the mod, and it's pretty interesting to read. Here we can read, for example, that his inspirations for the mod were the first Alien movie, the first Dead Space game, and Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. And yeah, you can certainly see that from the screenshots he provided alone. He also tells us here that he made over 200 textures for the mod by hand, so a lot of the content you see here is entirely custom and made by himself. And because the workload was so high, he almost entirely lost interest in the project. But he eventually pulled through and managed to finish it anyway. So, what does this finished project look like? Well, of course, I've played the mod myself and I got a few opinions on it, so let's have a look. Let's talk about the gameplay first, as that's arguably the most important part. It's pretty alright. It takes a lot of cues from the original Half-Life, as you might expect, and honestly, it doesn't do a whole lot different either. You walk through corridors, fight off enemies, activate switches and buttons here and there to open lifts and doors, and there are lots of vents to crawl through. Pretty standard stuff. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Sometimes you just want to play a mod that gives you more of what Half-Life has to offer. And it's especially great when these elements are implemented well. And I feel like they were. The puzzles weren't overly difficult, the enemy variety was pretty decent, it was genuinely a surprise for me the first time I had to fight a HECU grunt, and health and ammo pickups weren't that hard to come by either. There are also some things it does differently from Half-Life as well. You have the odd keycard to collect sometimes, and there was a part as well where you had to collect 2 power cells in order to open a door. And you could collect these power cells in any order you want. Oh, and this puzzle where you have to shove away boxes to create a path to the other side of the room was pretty clever as well. And don't get me started on these secret areas you can find with goodies. They are a great relief when you find them, especially when you're low on resources. So yeah, while the gameplay will certainly not blow anyone away, it's still a good romp and very enjoyable to play through. And hey, some puzzles might be fun. It doesn't overstay its welcome either. My playthrough clocked in at around an hour and 5 minutes, and that was me being slow about it. And then there are the graphics. I honestly think this mod looks great. It has a very distinctive vibe going on for it, and the custom textures really help with it. That and the lighting really makes it rather special. It really feels like you're in a completely different part of the Black Mesa facility. And remember when I talked about what Dr. T's inspirations were for this mod, being Alien and 2001: A Space Odyssey? Well, that's very noticeable. And I honestly love this vibe. It really stands out well in my opinion. There are a few complaints I got though. You've probably seen the epilepsy warning at the beginning of the video, and yeah, this mod really loves the use of the flickering light effect. It can get quite much at certain points, and I certainly cannot recommend this mod to anyone who is extremely sensitive to this kind of effect. And I have similar complaints about the audio as well. There are so many alarms going off in this facility in all kinds of different flavors and volumes that it can quickly just become overwhelming. If you're wondering why I kept the gameplay sound off for this particular game, this is why.
I'll be happy to survive this.
Yeah... Look, I know what the developer is aiming for here. The facility is obviously in danger and it's not safe, and that has to be let known somehow. But I think this might be a little overkill. I would just be doing a puzzle, shoving these boxes out of the way while multiple alarm sounds are blaring in the background. It's a lot. It actually makes me kind of happy to find a quiet place every so often. I can think for a moment. Alright. No, not yet. What's also worth mentioning is that in the Post-Mortem article, Dr. T was talking about a 1.1 patch for the mod being released at some point. What's going to be improved in this version and when it'll come out is still unclear. Right now, we only have a Spanish translation pack. But I hope that some of these things will be addressed. Anyway, with all that being said, I think I can still recommend this mod. The gameplay is pretty decent and does try to do some unique things with its puzzles sometimes. The graphics are nice and really give off its own vibe rather than just copying what we've already seen in Half-Life. And if you can overlook the light strobe effect everywhere and the audio being somewhat overwhelming sometimes, then I think you got a real great time killer on your hands. And that's all I have to say about Half-Life: The World Machine. What do you think? Do you want to play it, or are you going to skip out on this one? Let me know in the comments, I would love to know what you all think. And when you're down there, don't forget to subscribe. Let's see how fast we can get to the 30k. Oh, and like the video if you liked it, of course. And if you have any other mods you'd like me to cover, then be sure to let me know as well. You can DM me on Twitter or on Discord, or just leave a suggestion in the comments. That might be easier.